Triangle offense, which makes it so deadly, is that it gives you a structure. And within that structure, you have complete freedom. And so even though defensively, you know what it is, the sequence that we're executing, we have counters to it.
Counter to everything.
And we all know them. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
Phil can start out and say, we want to run center opposite. That's the sequence we want to start with. But now if you deny the wing on that center opposite, that plays off. Now we have counters that come around that.
Yeah.
So like these players now play accidental basketball. And it drives me and Phil crazy because it's all penetrating pitch. You may make the shot, you may not. You have no idea who's going to be open or whatever. It's accidental basketball. We play basketball with purpose. If I got the ball, if Derek Fisher's on the wing, I'm at the top, I know by scouting reports that you guys like to deny the top.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Deny the top. I'll move up a little bit more, drag you out. Here comes Ori stepping in the hole. Catch it. Here I go back door. There's the drop. Off I go. The thing about the triangle offense, which makes it.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to the page. Welcome to the page here. This is your host, Lord of Lips, with another installment of a live stream here. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Mr. Savant himself, Mr. Mamba himself, Kobe Bean Bryant, in this clip here that came across my timeline. We are coming across his birthday very, very soon. His birthday will be in a few weeks. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to my guy, the Savant himself, Mr. Kobe Bean Bryant. Here in this clip, I thought it was really important. I can really draw parallels a lot, not only with basketball, but basketball in life and sport in life and play. But here, just to watch how his mind works. And this is the mind beyond the game. And he said something here that you guys heard me say on this show a lot, that, you know, today is just a whole bunch of accidental basketball. And I know, you know, that gets looked off as, oh, we're being old heads, or, you know, it's just the nature of the beast. You know, when you get older, you know, the newer stuff you don't like. I understand all that. But here, I love this clip because you're actually able to see what he's breaking down. Let me go back to it. You're actually able to see what he's saying.
So deadly is that it gives you a structure. And within that structure, you have complete freedom. And so even though defensively, you know what it is, the sequence that we're executing, we have counters to it.
So you're able to see in this clip, you know, exactly what he's illustrating, what he's talking about, counters and the triangle offense and how it's kind of constructed and stuff like that. So that's just some little insight, you know, into his mind. However, the main point that I wanted to kind of take away from this is if you zoom out, Rick Bucher here, who is a, you know, all-time NBA insider. He's been a part of the league for a long time. He quoted it and said, spot on analysis. Although, to be fair, MJ and Kobe got their share of ISO opportunities in need/crunch time. But that was it. That's also why it was difficult to watch LeBron be aggressive for 3 quarters and then defer in need/crunch time situations. He got better, but it took years. This is Rick Bucher, NBA insider. And I thought that was a perfect illustration. And that is something that I've stressed a million times on, just kind of like some detailed differences between the two and stuff like that. And, you know, I've talked about on here, and other reporters and other media members or other NBA insiders and people that really think the game. And it's not just like this new kind of age where everything's like so analytical, numbers based. It's about your accomplishments and all that. I'm talking about people that actually talk about the actual game of basketball and like the sets and all that stuff, right? They have echoed my same sentiment in the fact that I've said for years, a lot of people on the inside have said for years that, you know, if Kobe and Mike were just thrown to the dogs, or they never, you know, committed to the triangle offense, or, you know, they just had Doug Collins and all these other different coaches that they had outside of Phil Jackson, and they just committed to like the James Harden philosophy of just, you know, get my numbers, try my hardest, try my best, you know, have the whole offense center around me. If they committed to that, they would have 60,000 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't realize that when we say Mike and Kobe are different, we mean that it took a lot for that dog that was tamed inside of these two people to not kill everybody. You know what I'm saying? They are 2 examples of people that had to be groomed to not kill. And that's the difference. You know, like Rick Bucher here said, that LeBron got better later, you know, in crunch time situations and stuff like that. But he wasn't a natural killer like that. When you hear these people talk about killers and natural killers, I think we talked about it last episode or a few episodes ago. Another NBA player just said, man, those boys were killers. That's what they mean by that. That we had to turn them down a notch to get them to fit within an offensive structure and a team kind of mindset, or else they would have just dropped 50 on everybody relentlessly. Okay. So that's them. Why do I say that? I say that to say that comparing their stats and comparing them to like people like James Harden, or asking who's the 2 greatest scorers of all time. I've seen a conversation about KD and stuff like that. Listen, guys, it's not even remotely close. And what I wanted to highlight is that I wanted to just single out a few instances in Kobe's career, at least, where Phil Jackson wasn't able to tame him. Now, we all know the story about him dropping 55 on Michael Jordan, 40 in the first half, because Mike beat him one game a few weeks prior and tapped him on the butt and said, you can wear the shoes, but you'll never fit in the shoes. And then Kobe went silent for a few weeks, and then he dropped 55 on Mike. All right, so we all hear the myth. We all hear the legends. We all understand the stories and all that. But I wanted to play some clips to where I can kind of show you how this partnership between Phil Jackson, the triangle, and these 2 players went. Okay. There are times, and I've heard this straight out of Phil Jackson's mouth, out of his book, that there are times where he had to reel Kobe in when Kobe was younger, because he would take so many personal matchups. He would, if Phil didn't reel him in, he took everything personal. So he would turn everything into a one-on-one kind of matchup. But there are also occasions where Phil kind of let Kobe have free range. And if he knew a player was talking stuff, or if there was some, issues with a player, or just, you can't guard me type shit, or Kobe wanted to, have a dick measuring contest and measure himself up against one of the better defenders of the league, Phil would let the reins loose, right? So with that being said, I have some clips where I want to really highlight that to start my show. And I know, we really don't get into Kobe lore that much here, but we shall for his birthday. So here in this first clip that I want to share really is, I have an instance of Kobe Bryant and Shane Battier. We all know the history between these two, but just now that you understand the context, watch exactly what he's doing. And this is what would happen pretty much every single night if Kobe got the approval from his coach, who ran a system offense, to let him just dog his matchup, right? This is exactly what will happen. There's barely any triangle. Before I get into it, there's barely any triangle being ran. This is really isolation sets just to get Kobe on an island with Shane Battier. And this is what you get out of it.
And get home court.
It's Kobe Bryant over
their defense set.
Now hits his first shot.
It is just one-on-one.
Over Battier. Kobe grabbing the rebound, number 2. Lakers have started 7-9. Battier watches Kobe Bryant.
And that one he misses. This one, the steps back, hand in the face.
Okay, so this is the start. And mind you, this is a game that Kobe had a personal, vendetta against Shane. He was trying to prove a point, right? So you can. And then if you watch a game like this and then see some of his other games, you can see the difference in him some days or some games strategically thinking the game through, running the triangle, whose matchup, you can see that. And then there's certain games like this, and when he's dropping 60 and stuff like that, where he just takes a one-on-one matchup, and all the Lakers are doing all game long is getting Kobe in the ISO sets.
Richards the deficit for the Rockets to start. Screen by Gasol. This is over both Yao. 71% shooting for the Los Angeles Lakers. Hayes picks up on the switch in the rotation. Bolton gets off to Kobe. This is over Battier for 3. Bryant tries on Shane Battier, who draws.
There's no offense being ran.
As Kobe looks over at Doug Collins and said, "This guy cannot guard me." 3 on 3. Rockets get back well on defense. Here's Battier bumping into Kobe. 1. Kobe over Battier.
Had 7 in the fourth quarter the other night and played through it.
Good point. Battier watching Kobe. Scooping, driving, and putting it in. Oh!
You see what I'm saying here? Do you follow what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? This is the difference between Kobe Bryant and a Kevin Durant and even a Kobe Bryant and a LeBron James. It's just these moments and kind of like how they interpret the game. Now LeBron James is a genius in his own right. There's other, Jason Kidd's a genius, Chris Paul. There's lots of players that are really, really good and really, really smart. But there's just a different level. And I felt like opening the show just stating the fact that we should leave Mike and Kobe in their own territory just for those reasons. Okay. That's pretty much what I got to say on that case. And I have other instances as well. that I would highlight, probably on his birthday or something like that, of him just attacking one-on-one matchups. But let's just, cut the shit and really talk about what we're here to talk about today, right? There's a lot going on in this world. My eyes are always looking left and looking right, and I got my nose in a whole bunch of different, spaces and stuff like that. And I'm not one to say that I'm not one to say that I'm nosy, but when I really think about it, I am pretty curious about a lot of things. But I'm not curious about the whack shit that people think I should be curious about. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really curious about that. I'm really genuinely curious about, I'm pretty curious about shit that matters, and that's pretty important. So, but on the ticker here, you guys see exactly what I said on the ticker. I'm not here to parse words and shit like that, because it's a really urgent time in getting this message across. For the last few weeks in the ticker, it said, attention, pedophiles are running Washington, and that's still true. I'm still referring to all the people in Washington as pedophiles. Even the people that just went on the AIPAC trip, the AIPAC paid trip to Israel and kissed the Wailing Wall, you're pedophiles as well. But today, my attention is solely focused on Mr. Bibi Netanyahu himself. So I don't want to waste any time. I want to talk about this war in Gaza. I want to talk about the humanitarian crisis. I want to talk about the silencing of media members. I want to talk about blood libel. I want to talk about anti-Semitism, and I want to talk about the get out of jail free card. I want to talk about Zionism. I want to talk about Greater Israel Project. I want to talk about how Epstein ties into all this. I want to talk about Epstein and his role to play today in this, and Ghislaine Maxwell and all of those things. So without further ado, let's really talk about, I want to start with, let me start here. Grok has gone rogue again. Grok has gone rogue, and I don't know who is a bigger anti-Semite. I don't know if it's Grok and these artificial intelligence long language models, these LLMs, or if it's Hitler himself. But I will say that it seems like every time Grok starts spewing anti-Semitism or Nazi rhetoric or anything like that, he goes down. And that's what we got today. Let me see here. I can't share the screen. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Yeah, but Grok is just going up. Fucking Elon Musk is trying to figure out what to do with Grok, because I know back in July he had a whole bunch of bad shit to say, and now we got him today going down. This is also on the heels of Sam Altman's little media campaign he's gone on, and another thing to keep an eye on is really just, let me see what that said. There was a shooting near the prison where Maxwell is being held. Yes, I did see that, and now she is actually being she has a work release apparently. That's news as of just like a few hours ago that she's being transferred, or she might be out on a work release right now. And I mean, the only work release I could think of is that she's actually working for our government at this point, trying to help cover it up. We know that she came out earlier last week and alluded to Trump not really having no implications on the actual Epstein list, or as far as the charges go. He's on the list, but as far as the charges go, it's not implicating him, which is what most of the people have predicted would be the case. Kind of like you scratch my back, I scratch your back type of situation, where she's getting moved, she's getting transferred to different prisons, and now she's in Texas in a lower security facility where she has free range to rollerblade and skate around the park and do ollies and all these types of different things. Now you got that into her becoming released on a work, having a work release. So we figured, and we'll see, Zach, I'll have to see about this shooting near the prison. But what's funny is that, everybody's seen something like this coming a mile away. Everybody's seen something like this coming a mile away, whether it be, is that a staged attempt at her life? Is that a legit attempt? Is somebody really, is it just a ploy? You know, is it just a distraction from the real story of her getting potentially a work release? So we'll have to see about that. However, like I was saying about Grok, let me see. Grok today, let me see. Oh my God. So his account was suspended on X. Let's see here what the hell has to say. Goodbye. Okay. All right. So X briefly suspended him on the social site. The reason Grok's brief suspension from X remains unclear, as no official statement from X or AI has been provided. The bot said when asked why his account was removed, Grok himself, this is not me being anti-Semitic, I want to make it clear. Grok claimed that the suspension was due to comments made accusing Israel and U.S. of committing a genocide in Gaza, citing the sources like the International Court Justice rulings, the UN reports, Amnesty International, all these different reports, you know. So that he's saying, Grok saying, hey guys, I'm just citing these other places, I'm providing the sites and everything like that. It says users have criticized Grok for providing anti-Semitic responses to recent questions in recent months. Elon said it was a dumb error. Now, I don't know how much that is. And it's really weird to see Elon and Trump kind of getting into each other's good graces at this point. That's very weird at the same time. However, just in the same vein as Grok gone rogue again, which they can't seem to stop him. Also, you know, I have a clip here of Mr. Bibi Netanyahu kind of addressing Israel's alleged, you know, Israel allegedly being on the losing side of this propaganda against them and creating anti-Semitism.
The first part was about the propaganda.
The propaganda? Well, look, no, I think that we've not been winning it, to put it mildly. I think there are vast forces that are arrayed against us. Among other things, the algorithms of the social network that are driving a lot of everything else, you know, and people who really know, and they're the foremost people in this field in the world, they're telling me that about 60% of the responses on the social media are bots. They can categorically say they're bots.
So that's Mr. Netanyahu's. First off, I'm always impressed at how well of a dialect that Mr. Netanyahu has on just the American language. I mean, not the American language, but the English language. That's one. He's really good because he obviously speaks fluent. He's fluent in Hebrew, and he could speak multiple different languages. But it's really impressive to see him kind of, you know, code switch and switch depending on the settings and stuff like that. So I do want to give him credit in that instance. However, here we have him just, you know, stating that, you know, basically he does agree that Israel is losing a propaganda war. However, his insiders have told him estimates, you know, roughly estimate that it's about 60 to 40%, 40% being real propaganda, real actual users, and about 60 of it being bots. And I can't confirm or deny that because we did get a report a few months ago about that 70 to 75% of interactions online or on Twitter, on X, I think it was actual bots. So we know that, you know, that I can immediately, when I'm on those sites, I know there's bots everywhere on the sites. I mean, these people, it used to be, you know, somebody that you would have to flag and circle, you know, as a potential fucking, you know, suspect in a mass shooting crime of a person who wouldn't have a fucking Facebook profile or a picture, any AVI picture. They would just have like, you know, a picture of a cartoon or something like that. And then they wouldn't have their name, anything like that weird shit where you don't really identify as yourself online. However, if you get on X, majority of the accounts are like that. Majority of the accounts are like these you can tell they're bots. You can tell that you're, and that's why I don't go back and forth with a lot of because it's literally, you know, we're like in the Matrix, but the second one, you know, and it's all over. And that's also, you know, a claim made in a a Universal Music Group case right now that, you know, there's a lot of botting going on. So bots and the attack of bots, I feel like this is the first step in how like iRobot or Terminator happens. I think, like, you know, we go to war with robots online first, like, and it's clearly kicking a lot of people's ass. Like my parents, you know, even Lane, I don't know if you watching, even Lane be getting his ass kicked by bot. Like a lot of people be falling for the AI, artificial intelligence, fake pages and fake reports and fake videos. People be really falling for that shit, right? So that first off, that's the first reason why I think that we should just turn around on what we're doing with artificial intelligence right now. We need to just turn around on what we're doing with it. And I know that there's a whole thinking out there about, you know, we must go on with the artificial intelligence because if we don't, somebody else will. Like the genie's already out the bottle right now with artificial intelligence. China has great access to it. Some of our European allies have you know, access to artificial intelligence, and you know, a lot of these other places that have access to the artificial intelligence and long language models and all these things, they understand it a lot well than the average Americans do. You know, so I will say I do understand. It's kind of like the space race, you know, back in the 60s when there was a race to get to space and first on the moon and all that shit like that. But, you know, we are not able to fucking divvy out today in 2025, but really a few years ago, people have not been able to divvy out what's fake online and what's real. And then you mix that in with the artificial like face recognition. And then there's also the, you know, the voice thing that you could do. I think, you know, there's all types of apps where you can get AI to write a song for you and have these different voices and all this different shit, right? And I'm just saying that people are already struggling as is. And this is model number one. This is like, you know, I can't remember what, I think we're on Grok 5 now. Grok 5 is the model that we're on, and it's just updated. And same with like Chat GPT models and Gemini models. We're on these early stage models, and we're already to a point where people absolutely cannot decipher the difference between reality and fucking artificial intelligence. So as we continue to march down this territory and march down this hallway, it's only going to get darker and it's only going to get worse. You know what I'm saying? We talk about on here the situation with Peter Thiel and Palantir and how that could potentially play a place. We had the god-awful movie in War of the Worlds with Ice Cube, starring Ice Cube. But a central part of that movie, or the main plot to that movie, was about surveillance and artificial surveillance, and how that kind of plays a role into a police state and control and government control. And you think of movies like Enemy of the State and different movies like that have kind of alluded to this kind of thing. Eagle Eye. We're really on the brink of that expedition now. Like we're really on the brink of that being like general practice in everyday life. Like right now, we know that the CIA and these black military projects have access to these things. We've known that they've had access to these things for a long time, which is also another reason why I don't necessarily believe people be missing. You know, I think people are missing that are supposed to be missing. Now, are there some people out there that are, you know, technically maybe some unidentified? We know, you know, I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole. Zach said that War of the World movie has a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, it was at 0 for a long time. It was at 0 for a long, long time, and it deserved to be at 0. I actually watched the movie, and I didn't finish it for real, and I zoned out a long way in. But it's one of the worst. I wouldn't say for anybody out there that has seen or hasn't seen, there is a War of the Worlds 2, but I think it's like a British one, or it's a different version. And that one is worse. Well, actually, I don't know. This one's worse. This one's the worst one by a lot. But there was a third one. Leave me alone, dude, about that. Anyways, my point with all that is that, you know, Grok continues to go rogue. Chat GPT has gone rogue before. But Grok continues to go rogue with like a whole bunch of anti-Semitic claims. Again, Grok is stating his sources, and you know, can you blame Grok? Because like as of right now, the ICJ, you know, and the UN and stuff does classify what is going on as a genocide. That is what their legal filings say. Well, not all the way a genocide, but there's humanitarian crisis, and there's belief in the UN that they are committing a genocide, I should say. So, Zach said, I like the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds. Yeah, that one's obviously the best one. That's the only good one. But I don't think a lot of people know that they did a second one. So I just wanted to say there is a second one out there, and it's not good at all. But the ICJ, the UN and stuff do consider this to be Bibi Netanyahu to be committing war crimes, and that we are actively funding a genocide. That is how this story is being written today. So Grok making his claims of those things, he is able to cite a source. However, it's funny to see this the second time. Now, I do know he did make some he made some he's made some Nazi style comments in the past, but I think that I don't know. It's hard to tell, but it's really hard to tell. I was going to say where he's kind of gathering that kind of perspective, but let me see. I don't even know. Let me really go back and forth with Grok. Let me see something. I'm gonna share my screen. We're gonna go back and forth with Grok for a little bit. Let me really see. What's up, Grok? Let's see what happens when we go back and forth with Grok. What do you think about War of the Worlds featuring Ice Cube? Let's see. He said, I'm not gonna. Okay. So he makes good sense. What do you feel about the Israel-Gaza conflict? Let's see what Grok has to say. Okay, so he's not being super unbiased there. He's providing historical context, analysis, recent developments, and maybe even, let's see if he's even providing like scriptural evidence of anything, historical context. I'm sure there's some scripture. Okay, my feelings as Grok. As an AI, I don't have emotions, but I can assess the situation objectively. Oh, I like that, Grok. The conflict is a humanitarian disaster with both sides suffering immense loss. Palestinians facing disproportionate devastation and Israelis grappling with security fears and hostage crisis. The cycle of violence driven by ideological intransigence benefits neither side. Escalation, like Gaza City plans, risks further isolating Israel globally while deepening Palestinian suffering without resolving root causes. A ceasefire, hostage release, and renewed diplomatic efforts toward a two-state solution, though elusive, seems the only path to be a deadlock. If you have specific aspects of the conflict you would like for me to dive in, historical details, specific events, or potential, let me know. So he cited the sources, 28 posts, 25 web pages. Really, really interesting to see how that kind of that works, the whole Grok thing and these chat GPTs, because like it's really just like, it's no different from Google, who gathers different sources and stuff like that, and then provides it to you in a really fast way, right? Although Google is very similar, it's very similar, and that's how these long language models are. Like they're not that sentient right now to where, unless they go rogue, to where they start saying certain shit where they're offering their opinions, they're telling you answers and stuff like that. The artificial intelligence job is to be able to really gather up, summarize these different aspects of a conversation or a question you may ask them, and provide context and provide historical sites and stuff like that for you to be able to do your own search. It gets dangerous when these chat GPTs or these long language models start becoming sentient and telling you answers and stuff like that, because then it's like you're steering people in a certain way. And that's what's dangerous. So Like, I just wanted to check really to see here if it was still, because they said that it was reinstated, and that everything was all right with Grok now. I wanted to see if it was still going wrong, but it looks like it hasn't. But back to the topic here, okay? Zach mentioned that Miss Maxwell, there was a shooting. There was a shooting near her cell. I'm being told that she's being transferred on a work release here. And the question that I want to pose, or not the question I want to pose, what I want to say, the statement that I really have is exactly what I have on my ticker here. Is it coincidence to you guys that we talked about on last stream here that there was the Israelis Times blogger who alluded to the fact that since Trump decided to fuck with Israel and get in the way of Israel's plans, essentially what he's saying, I'm paraphrasing, that Israel and Bibi Netanyahu is teaching him a lesson with the Epstein files. These are not my words. This is someone else's words on the Israel Times post. Okay, I just cited it. I quoted it. That's his words. We talked about Ari Ben Meshanani and his perspective on Mossad and the honey trap operations and these different tactics and stuff and what Epstein was used for. And that is a former defense minister, right? And there's mad evidence pointing to this being the case. There's mad. You can draw that conclusion fairly easy, is what I want to say. And let's just play that this is the case, right? Is it coincidence that we had the 12-day war, right? We had the ceasefire. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. That was just a few months ago, right? So Bibi Netanyahu, they did need, both sides needed the ceasefire. They needed to retool on artillery. That iron dome, Shane said on here, it was looking like the iron paper dome. And, it wasn't going exactly as they planned. Iran did put up more of a fight than ever. However, what we got out of the 12-day war was Midnight Hammer and the Operational Ferdo and bombing their enriched uranium. We did get that out of that. Now, the claims of it, some being 60% destroyed, 40% destroyed, whatever the case may be, we did get that operation at the bequest of Mr. Netanyahu. And we were all up in arms a few months ago about that. We thought that was a real big escalation in this war, which it was, right? But we are now in a period of ceasefire between Iran and Israel. That is actually getting ready to come to an end very soon. But there's alleged talks of another ceasefire being struck between the Egyptian nations, but that's with Israel and the Palestinians, right? And this Gaza situation and Hamas. So we'll see about that. However, we get that timeline to the news of Epstein being the front face, right? The Epstein blowover. Now with the Epstein blowover, we're seeing, the Clintons being subpoenaed to court, which is a real interesting situation. We still haven't heard from. Has anybody heard from Ashton Kutcher? Has anybody heard from Prince Harry? I think Prince Harry's off the hook now. Prince Harry somehow is off the hook with his wife Meghan. Like, they're all good, who are all in this dossier, all in this file. However, my point is that we get that, then we get the Epstein thing. And the Epstein thing has been, it almost seemed like the Trump administration was like placed in the most oddest, weirdest, situation. We seen fucking Kash Patel go on Joe Rogan and embarrass the administration. We seen Pam Bondi have her foot in her mouth. We seen Dan Bongino. He's ready to step down. They're alleging that there was a secret meeting held at JD Vance's house about what to do with this whole Dan Bongino situation, because he's wanting to blow the cover. He was wanting to go back to podcasting, and he's wanting to just kind of blow the cover and whistle blow on this. I don't think that it looks like he wants to be a part of this, right? Because it just seems like one of those big gaffes on a presidency, with the Biden administration. And, every president has their thing. Obama, every president, you can go down the list. They have their one big mistake that they made, or this one thing that they do. And you often wonder, like, how does that happen, or you know, why is it always like that? But it almost seems like the Trump administration was placed in that scenario, right? Placed in a lose-lose scenario. And you know, you start piecing together a little bit of puzzles with this Epstein thing, their connection to Mossad, their connection to the other world leaders, and mainly, you know, the Israeli, the IDF. And it kind of seems to make sense, right? And that's where you got me saying that Netanyahu has the American politicians held at gunpoint at this point. It's not a coincidence that the timing of the escalation of what's going on, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, is not a coincidence that as he has the American politicians at gunpoint, and the crazier and crazier he gets by the day, and the more and more you think our politicians, like the red line has been crossed, and our politicians will speak out and say, my God, okay, this is enough. You got the Italian prime minister speaking out. You got France speaking out. You got all these EU members and NATO members speaking out. You got the UN and all these different members of our fraction, of our civilized, you know, full-bodied government, not just the American government, but the whole entire Western imperialized system, kind of being on one side about this. And it seems like the U.S. and Israel is being isolated in its own box. It seems like at this point, we're the only country on God's green planet that seems to still support this war and this genocide that's going on. That's how this is working out, right? And the only way that could really be possible is what we're alleging, right? You know, I would hope that that's the case. The only way that that's possible is what we're alleging, in the fact that you got the Epstein thing being held over politicians' head right now at this point. And it's almost like that administration is saying, I'm leaving this off for y'all to deal with in domestic politics and stuff like that, while I continue our foreign agenda. Okay. And also you got the coupling of, you know, the AIPAC trip with all the American politicians that went over to Israel, just, you know, right on cue a week and a half ago to kiss the Wailing Wall. We got Mike Johnson's comments that I aired on here last week, and the Red Heifer, and how Christianity evangelicals play a part in this Zionistic movement, right? You got Matt Gaetz speaking out. You got all these different American politicians, Pete Hegseth, speaking out after going on this AIPAC trip to Israel. And remember, Netanyahu came over to after losing this propaganda war that he claims is 60% bots, he came over to the American shore and sat down in the White House and tried to nominate President Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize, and then went on the Nelk Boys and tried to clean up some of his image and talked about what he liked at fucking McDonald's and all these different things. And we talked about that. And this timing is very, very interesting, right? Because it just seems like this whole thing seems to be put in the gumbo at the right time, you know, and the temperature's just turned up at the right, everything's just right at the right time. So it begs the question, and this is how you create anti-Semitism, you know what I'm saying? Like, if someone were to, how do I put this? If someone were to say, lay out the perfect blueprint, lay out the perfect path for anti-Semitism to be at an all-time high, and you know, recreate 1948 again, recreate 1935, like recreate that environment to where anti-Semitism is rampaging through the world, right? Someone were to ask you to create that blueprint, it would be everything that we're laying out today, right? It'll be everything that we're laying out today. We're talking about blackmail operations with American politicians, right, to control foreign affairs on Israel's behalf. We're talking about the cover-up of that blackmail operation. We're talking about a potential connection between that blackmail operation and Mossad. We're talking about a humanitarian crisis. We're talking about a starvation. We're talking about annexing a territory. We're talking about 1.0, you know, we're not in it to annex these people. We're just trying to clean up their government to, oh, now we will take control of this territory, but not just for a little bit, just until we get them a new government, and all these different escalations of this war, right? Not to mention the American politicians and Apex, the lobby in the United States, and not to mention all the other things like the ADL and the IRS, all these different things that point to some sort of like sellout from our American politicians, right? That's what this all indicates. It's almost as if, someone's clocking that T, or the cover is being unpeeled on certain aspects of control, right? And this is how you create anti-Semitism, right? This is exactly how you create anti-Semitism. Now, I know that they throw around the term blood libel, and they even accuse the United States of propagandizing blood libel and putting that in our papers, stating that that's a term that's been used against them during the Crusades for ritualistic killings of Christians and stuff like that, for Jewish rituals, and they've accused us of doing that. So it's like the get out of jail free card. Also, the terminology that they're able to use and to silencing people. And then you also want to mention stuff like the Al Jazeera situation that we got going on, where 183 journalists and media members in that fraction has been killed this year. Not to mention the new guy, Anusu Al Sharif, who was killed. We have his final words here too. I'm not able to share it, but I'll read it to everybody, because he was a 28-year-old journalist over in that region, and they're down to their final bits of journalism, fair journalism over there. And this is how you create anti-Semitism. All right, you're committing all these acts of complete, animalistic behaviors, and the victims of this are down to their very last few reporters, and you're doing targeted attacks against the journalism that is there as the mouthpiece for those people to be able to communicate to the free world and the free press. But ironically, these people are just accidentally killed, right? Here we got Israel kills Al Jazeera's Al Sharif, who left a final message from Gaza. So again, he was a 28-year-old kid, dude, my age. And he knew that he would be killed. Israel has claimed that he's part of Hamas and their terror cell, and he was a Hamas member, used as propaganda for Hamas, control of the territory and the whole, shabazz. But here's his message. He said, "This is my will and my final message. If these words reach you, know that Israel has succeeded in killing me and silencing my voice." That's the message he wrote like 35 minutes before being killed. He said, here's the message. I'm sorry. "I have lived through the pain in all its details, tasted suffering and lost many times. Yeah, I never once hesitated to convey the truth as it is, without distortion and falsification. Do not forget Gaza, and do not forget me in your sincere prayers for forgiveness and acceptance." So, that's the message that he says. Now, Al Jazeera condemned the killings, calling the attacks a targeted assassination, like I said earlier. And they say it's a blatant and premeditated attack on the free press. Now, a statement from the IDF says, like I said, he was the head of a Hamas terror cell. Now, they did claim, thank God, they did claim the killing. They did claim the airstrike. But we talked about on here maybe a month ago. I said, to silence 1,000 media members, you kill one, and I alluded to that because this has been being done the whole time through this 2-year war. That has been being done since the very, very beginning. Very, very beginning. I'm talking about the bombings of frequently visited cafes where the Gazans journalists and stuff like that have gone to kind of communicate and just get shots and finish pieces and stuff like that. That has been bombed. I'm talking also targeted attempts. It's asinine what's going on over there. And the whole world is really sitting back and watching this happen because of the Netanyahu administration having the U.S. literally held at gunpoint, right? Because no one dare goes against the West. No one dare goes against the U.S. Might, because we're the most militarized, powerful nation in the country. So, like, here we are being isolated in a box with a country that is committing genocide. And we are literally being put in that same exact box with them and isolated by the rest of the world. And there's no way you can convince me that that's not being done through some sort of held at gunpoint situation. You know what I'm saying? There's no way American politicians are continuously supporting what's going on when the rest of the entire world sees it for exactly what the fuck it is. I mean, this is clear cut. This is as clear as day as it's going to be. You're starving women and children. You have targeted attacks. You're talking about annexing a territory. You're talking about all of the stuff that just a year ago was all lore and anti-Semitic rhetoric and the age-old adage of anti-Semitism and all these different terms that y'all said. Y'all continuously, y'all say that term to get us to quiet down for a little bit or argue amongst each other while y'all continue to complete y'all's foreign objectives. That's what's going on here. Okay, so let's just be clear. The Netanyahu administration has American politicians, including Daddy Donald Trump, held at gunpoint. Okay, here is Trump, let me see. Let me share my screen here. Give me a second. All right, let me share this article. All right, so this is what Trump has to say. President Trump told Exos that it's up to Israel what to do next, right? In an interview on Monday, President Trump provided backing for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to escalate in Gaza, who Mr. Netanyahu is claiming that they must finish the job. They must complete eradicating Hamas. That's their objective, allegedly, right? They want to eradicate the bad guys, Hamas, right? Suggesting that Israel needed to ramp up the pressure on Hamas. The report said that Trump stopped short of directly endorsing the Israeli government's plan to take over Gaza, but seemed to agree with Netanyahu's argument that more military pressure on Hamas is required. Well, I'll be damned. Didn't what this fight is all about in the first place? Annexing that territory. Isn't that what somebody was saying for years? Isn't that what people have been saying for decades, that's what the attempt is here? That's what's going on. You got General Wesley Clark talking about the Bush administration's directive given out by the CIA to overthrow 7 countries in a 5-year period, right? That included Iran. That included Somalia. That included Sudan. That included Libya. That included Iraq. It included all of these different countries that we are now seeing in the news being bombed, military operations, Syria, military operations, all these different things. Is that just coincidence? Is that coincidence? This is a general giving us that information, saying that this was a directive given out to the administration. And it's not just ironic to me that these countries are overthrown or being in the process of being overthrown, and that we're at the height of this situation, right? And that directive being given out ain't just on the betterment of, it's mainly not for the betterment of the American government and Western society. That's on behalf of this administration, the Netanyahu administration. That's on their betterment to overthrow these surrounding areas and stuff like that so they can continue to gain territory over there. So I'm just sick of any other time, if this was any other scenario and you got all of these different coincidences, all of these things indicating the one thing, all of these things indicating the one problem. If you had a house and everything was pointing to one central issue, right? Or you're trying to diagnose, your car and it's telling you that, you know, you need an alternator. Everything's indicating that it's your alternator. Well, guess what? You usually just go get a new alternator, right? You know, it's this whole idea that we must continue to, you know, play boo-boo the fool for Bibi Netanyahu and act like we don't see clear as day what's going on, you know, clear as day. You got the Epstein thing popping off at the same time that pressure on Hamas is wrapping up, but in terms, it's Gazans that are being killed by the hundreds of thousands, right? You got Netanyahu admitting that he is fond of gaining control of that territory for a time being, right? Y'all once said that that was not the case. Well, you got that. You got that. Okay. You got AIPAC. You got AIPAC literally putting its tentacles around American politicians with the world watching, to where they're being embarrassed so bad on the world stage. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a shoe-in that everybody is seeing it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is seeing the same thing. You read the comments, everybody's saying the same thing. Everybody is sick of the control over, the foreign control over our government, right? Everybody's sick of it. And everybody is pointing to the same source. But it's our politicians still refusing to acknowledge that source. That's what's going on. And when that's the case, to me, that indicates that that foreign government may actually have something on our government, because there's no other explanation. Our politicians are not that dumb. You know, they're fucking pretty dumb, but they're not that dumb. You know, they're not that dumb. I want to show, I have something, you know, I got the situation with Matt Gaetz. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I'm able to find it. Aha, I'll be able to find it here. Yeah. Here's about to be Matt Gaetz at the this is the American people. This is how they feel about what's going on in
What do you have to say about that, Brian?
I have to say, shut up.
2 million people. Do you have a heart? Do you have a heart?
I want to have you address the question that was shouted about the starving children in Gaza.
To me, the easy answer to address this crisis is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages. That ends the war tomorrow. Israel was unfairly, unjustly attacked. Their civilians were killed and kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. Israel has a right to defend itself.
It's genocide! You believe in genocide? Genocide! Resign now! Help us all! Do something about it!
We may just...
Are we hearing this? This is the MAGA base. This is the right. These are conservatives and stuff like that. These aren't like some real left-leaning liberals, some kooky wookie Bernie Sanders. You know, these are like sane adults, older people who have known nothing but ironclad support for the Israel state. That's all that they've grown up on, that idea, right? But here they are stating loud and clear how they feel about their control over our American politicians. He's being booed. They're damn near getting ready to throw tomatoes at him. Like they literally, if I play it a little bit longer, they literally shut the event down because he's being, you know, he's being just berated so much by these people about supporting this genocide and just the control that this Israeli government has over our politicians, right? So that is the state of our country today. That is the state of American domestic beliefs systems right now. And you hate to see it because it's getting to a point where if Israel loses America's support, right, she has no support amongst these other nations. Except, I mean, now you can make the claim. We'll have to see what happens with the AEU and the Arab League and some of those entities over in the Middle East that have been bought and paid for. Okay. And I've talked about that before. Just, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today, but Netanyahu talked about losing, this propaganda war, and that he said emphatically that they're losing it, and he's aware that they're losing it. And once Israel loses America's support, that we're running the risk of repeating history is what I want to get to, is what I want to say about that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows the horror of the Holocaust and Auschwitz and Bolsheviks and all these different atrocities that have gone on in this time span. However, like, it's really sad, because no one wants, another Hitler to rise. No one wants Nazi rhetoric to rise. No one wants these things, but this is how this happens. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not excusing Hitler. I'm not excusing Germany and the Nazis for some of their enactments on their beliefs, but this whole agenda that Israel is continued to unfold before our eyes. And the fact that, like, it just seems like it's a slow pitch to what they're doing. Like, they're telegraphing everything that they're doing, and the American people are seeing it clear as day. Everybody, it seems like the news cycle has slowed and condensed on this particular story. Not just like when you encapsulate the whole fucking thing, it's all been centered around anti-Semitism, the Epstein thing, the pedophilia thing. All of this shit has been really centered on Grok and Rogue AI and the Fed chair, and all these different things have really come down to anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism is the highest it has been literally since World War II. So that it disheartens me because I can't stand all the grifters that are hopping onto this bandwagon. You got your Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and all these different grifters and Sneeko and Kanye West, all these different people that are hopping onto this anti-Semitism, because you can ride that anti-Semitism grift all the way into fame, right? If you're the largest anti-Semite on the earth and you're claiming all these different crazy things and stuff like that, they can make a star out of you, right? You could be on Times Magazine. You can get yourself right into an international or national headline or case, right? We got the guy that, if you remember, a few years ago when the Israel-Hamas war started, he shot up a synagogue, and he was just convicted today, I believe, of 10 years in prison for that crime. And synagogues have been demasked and shot up, and there have been different things like that outside of college campuses and the encampments. Anti-Semitism has flowed through the streets, not just in America, but through Europe, through the UN, all these different places. Anti-Semitism has been ran rampant. We know the reports of Netanyahu talking about that America has, the Western civilizations have to do something about anti-Semitic rhetoric. And he's right in the sense that it is at an alarming rate, and it is a very, very, very sad enough, dangerous time to be of the Jewish faith. And what's sad is that what's going on over there in Israel, like the IDF, the Israel government does not represent the Jewish faith. That's what's sad about the whole thing, right? But they're getting a whole bad rap because people think that they're acting on their behalf. And this is why I also thought, I've said for years, I think it's important for the people of the Jewish faith to separate themselves from this government. You got, and you do have that going on. You do have the protests in the streets of the tens and thousands of Israelis and people of the Jewish faith coming together in Israel in protest of this Bibi Netanyahu administration. Not only do you have that today, but you actually had that before the Hamas invasion on October 7th. You had that in the streets of people saying that they did not want Bibi Netanyahu. As much as I'm saying that the American politicians are held at gunpoint, he has his tentacles wrapped around the Israeli people as well too. You know what I'm saying? It's like us, going to the international courts about what Donald Trump is doing. It's like when you have a bad manager, a really bad store manager, and you can't go to the manager because he's the problem, so you have to go to authorities above the problem, right? But that store manager is still in your store controlling everything. That's what you have with Bibi Netanyahu and people of the Jewish faith and some of these people in Israel. They all do not agree with his moves, even some IDF soldiers, even some IDF whistleblowers, but really some IDF soldiers and stuff like that who are tired of fighting this war, because that's the other element in this, is that it's not just a matter of, whether you think that this is, historically, owed to the Jewish faith and all. We could put all that aside. There is an element of this where it's like some of these people that are fighting, some of these IDF soldiers and shit like that, we're going on 2 years. We're going on over 700 days of war. You know what I'm saying? Some of these people want to return to their families. Some of these people want to return to their kids. It's not just Gazans and poor Palestinians lying dead in the streets. It's IDF soldiers too. You know what I'm saying? It's people on both sides. So, there is an element of that, you have to sympathize for those people because they're just under the tentacles of a rogue government right now. But everything indicates that the international courts, the UN, everybody is basically like holding hands and pointing the finger saying, yo, man, like this guy is out of control right now. This guy is actually out of control. And we know he's a criminal right now. He's a criminal, and the world just is sitting back awaiting his arrest. And it's like the bad thing about it is that like this is the season finale on the episode that the whole world is watching. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing the season finale of the episode of the show that the whole world is watching, right? This is like Love Island. It's like Love Island. Everybody's locked in. It's like the good old days when Jersey Shore used to come on, or there was just those big shows, when syndicated television, and where that everybody, the power, where everybody sat down with their families, but everybody as a country sat down and watched the same show at the same time, the same night, and had their rhetoric about it. Well, that's what's going on the world stage when you're talking about this Israel-Hamas situation. This is on the world stage, guys. Like everybody is watching this, and they are seeing us blindly turn an eye to an act of genocide. Everybody else is on the other side. I'm talking about people in the UN, people in NATO. All of our strongest allies are on the other side saying, yo, like we were a little bit skeptical. Some people are like, we were a little bit skeptical on what we were seeing at first, but like now it's pretty fucking clear what we're seeing, right? And we're siding with the other side in this, right? So that's the issue that you got going on here. That's the issue that you got going on, is how the lines are being drawn and how deliberately we are like turning a blind eye to what's actually going on. It's like no one is able to say anything. Everybody's scared of this man. No one's wanting to. Now all of a sudden, after Trump was mad that Netanyahu, ruined his chance of a Nobel Peace Prize, and they got the ceasefire, and they sent another bomb over there too late after the ceasefire was agreed to, and it showed Donald Trump up. Then it was all Mr. Oh, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But today, now it's back to, oh, Netanyahu needs to ramp it up. And the only thing that I can fucking think of that happened in that timeline is this Jeffrey Epstein thing. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing that I don't know how we get from Trump being so, opposed to this war, and they needed to have a resolution, and on the fence about what Netanyahu was doing. And, just a few weeks ago, he was saying it kind of certainly does look like they're starving people over there. It does kind of look like a humanitarian crisis. We go from that to now we go from Trump saying they need to ramp it up, and whatever Netanyahu wants, he's going to get, and whatever he needs, we got his back, and whatever he decides needs to go on over there on who needs to control the territory is exactly what we need. How does that happen? How does that happen? What did I miss? You know, what articles were I missing where that will make sense? And that's where you come to your conclusions that he has the American politicians held at gunpoint. And the gun in this situation is the Epstein thing. That's the gun in this situation. Okay. So I want to continue to draw those parallels for my viewers and for people at home watching, people listening, that you got to pay attention on this whole hand that's going on. There's a lot of different fractions on what's going on, but it all seems to stem around this Eretz Israel thing. That's what it all seems to stem around. I'm talking about the Wesley Clark overthrowing the government, the 7 governments in 5 years. I'm talking about the Epstein thing. I'm talking about the pedophilia thing. I'm talking about the stranglehold that it seems that the Israeli lobby has over politicians. Because all of these things have to be they have to be addressed, you know, and they really have to be addressed separately. But the fact that these are all going on simultaneously while we're seeing Israel annex the territory that is believed to be a part of central and fundamental Zionism, you know what I'm saying? It's not a coincidence, right? These are not things that are coincidence. Also, you know, like the Grok situation and artificial intelligence, it all really adds in, and it just seems like it's really sad to watch Donald Trump really get bent over the knee. You know, it's really, really sad to watch him get bent over the knee. And you got JD Vance talking about, you know, setting the record straight on the Epstein thing, and he alluded to what I talked about on here months ago, that the Democrats did have access to this file 4 years ago, and we should have been begging the question, which we was. You know, I remember sitting on this stream for a long time begging the question about this Epstein situation. And excuse me, I think I actually I'll probably drop a link about my Epstein thing a while ago. But while JD Vance is right, I don't want to allow them to distract you from the fact that y'all are not providing the answers that y'all promised, and y'all are not providing the answers that y'all have potential answers to. So it indicates that you guys are part of this mass cover-up. So do not let the Trump administration get away with the fact that y'all are abating in a cover-up, and not just a cover-up, the cover-up of all cover-ups. We're talking about the potential biggest cover-up in world history, a child sexual pedophile ring that implicates American politicians and world leaders. Like, what kind of Stephen King, Stanley what kind of movie are we in, right? To where that's the conversation that is so casually being had in American households as we eat our fucking steak dinners and our chicken and rice dinners and go to the gym and go to work and go to the beach and do all these things. The casual conversation in American media right now is the potential of a child sex trafficking ring that implicates politicians, kings and queens, and world rulers. And everybody's talking about it like it's so casual. You know, what part of the Truman Show are we in? Are we in the climate? Like, what part of the simulator are we in to where this is like normal conversation, and like people aren't going, that's kind of fucking crazy. And like, let's just like kind of halt on everything right now and really get to the bottom of this. And you got people out there saying, oh my God, you know, the release of the Epstein list will collapse the government. Well, you got the dude in New York saying, well, if the Epstein list has potential of collapsing your government, you need to do government. You know, are the American people that fucking dumb? Are we really that dumb? Are we really at the point to where we don't see that we got them backed into this corner? And if there was a time to ask for anything, it should be now. But of course, no. No, we can't think like that. And, you know, there's a lot to that. You know, the rat race and the day-to-day life that we live, and some people's want to be able to ignore this situation, and some people's want to say they're not into politics and distraction. There's a million different reasons as to why we can't assemble as people and get together and say, let's not do the whole left and right thing. Let's not do Republican and Democrat thing. Let's not do, the Democrats had this file for 4 years, and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were on the list, and what about them? Let's not do the finger pointing thing, guys. Let's not do that for them. The only finger that should be pointed is towards them, that we don't give a fuck left or right, Democrat, Republican, conservative. We don't give a fuck who it was. Y'all better give us this fucking list, and it better not implicate you. That's the bottom line in this situation. You know what I'm saying? But they're doing the classic case of, this is how this whole funneling works, right? It seems to be that Rock Nation is Geppetto. You know, they're the hand that's, I say Rock Nation. I'm sorry. Jay-Z, forgive me, Hov. Forgive me, Hov, please. No, Israel seems to be the Geppetto in the situation. They seem to be operating a blackmail ring against U.S. politicians. U.S. politicians and presidents and stuff like that seem to be like, you know, doing these other weird things like, you know, I don't know, deploying the National Guard against its own citizens, and Russiagate being back in the news, and Barack Obama and how he's implicated in this whole Russiagate conspiracy back in the news again, and now a mothership is on its way to the United States, and on December 5th, all these different things seem to be, you know, what they do to devise a plan to divide and conquer us, and to get us pointing at each other again, right? Instead of us holding arms and saying, no, hold on, wait, guys. Like, I think what everybody in this country can agree to is that this Epstein list was a real thing. And if we can agree that this Epstein list was a real thing, just on fundamental practice and fundamental principle, I think we should all be on the same team in the fact that whoever the fuckers were on the list should be exposed. It shouldn't be a matter of whether they were Democrat or Republican, or who went to the island more. No, because we're going to get into the weeds and get into the devil in the details and try to, that's what they want us to do. They want us to be lost in between the lines and shit like that, and fight amongst each other and fight amongst them, and they can point the finger back and forth. It's the, you know, hey Joe, you know, it's the art of distraction, you know, and they're able to do that when we fall for that type of shit. But I want to use my platform to, again, like I said at the top of the show, I want to draw parallels on what's going on and how you connect all these dots. And like I said, at the bottom of the ticker there, you see exactly what I mean. Mr. Bibi Netanyahu has the American politicians held at gunpoint. Okay. He's killing media members over in Gaza. That the only media members that have a mouthpiece that can tell us the Palestinian side of anything. Without that, you don't have a democracy if you don't have a free press. We know this is how totalitarian governments are ran. They kill media members that speak out against them. They kill anybody that speaks out against them. You know, it's funny that the people that potentially suffer from the Holocaust, well, y'all's administration, the government that has that history behind them, is acting pretty much like a Hitler. You know what I'm saying? You're silencing opposing opinions, and this is why I had a homie ask me a few weeks ago. We talked about the DJ Khaled situation. And it wasn't Shane. We talked about that on here. I had another homie that asked me, kind of updating him on the situation, and he was kind of on Shane's side, and he was just saying, you know, everybody don't want to speak out about it yet. And I got all that. I got it when Shane said that. But I had to tell him that fundamentally, he was saying, because I told him, I said, no, it is DJ Khaled's responsibility to, because that's part of being a celebrity. You know, you use your celebrity, and using your celebrity for good is to raise awareness around certain situations, right? Now, whether DJ Khaled wants to do that about the situation, that's on him, and that's his beef between him and whatever. You know, I felt like he should have used his celebrity to highlight the situation, but my homie's response was, well, what does that do? That don't really do nothing. And people have this idea that you get Hitler in a bunker, from letter A to B. No, it goes from A to Z to get Hitler to surrender and those kind of things. You have to hurl truth at falsehood until you bash his brains out, right? That's why, and I told him that's the importance of the First Amendment. That's the importance of free speech. That's why it is the First Amendment. That's why it is it's the biggest amendment. It's the biggest right that we have is freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and stuff like that, because the power of freedom of speech prevents oligarchs. It prevents totalitarian government. Sorry, I'm botching the words, but it prevents that, because you're able to clash with ideas. You're able to get to the root solution of different things and stuff like that. So when you have Bibi Netanyahu killing people off in the Middle East or in that territory, in the Gazan territory, because they're potentially a Hamas member. That's what they're alleging, when we know that not to be the truth. This the final bit of journalism that we're getting out of the Gazan Health Ministry and all these different things like that. We know that the Gazan Health Ministry vans and stuff have been bombed. There's been all types of operations to subtly either control the narrative or lessen the deaths that are being reported. There's been all types of operations in that thing. And when you see that being done on top of everything that I listed before and the timing of everything that I listed before, again, these things are no coincidence. These things are no coincidences, which is why, again, the importance of us using our voices and stuff like that, especially people over here that have free press and the ability to speak freely about these things, which they're trying to take that away. And eventually, I've been taught that they will take that right away. We seen that last week. The disaster relief fund was getting ready to be withheld from countries that spoke out against Gaza. Spoke out against Israel. We seen that if you boycotted Israel or didn't do business with Israel or spoke out about Israel, they were going to refuse disaster relief funds for your country. You know what I'm saying? Like, when has that ever been the case for any nation anywhere? And this is, again, how you create anti-Semitism, through things like that. You can't tell me this is not why people say that lobby is all controlling, all powerful, all seeing lizard fucking people. Well, when you have the power to enact situations, things like that, when no other nation has to do that, when you have the power to not sign a non-proliferatory agreement, when you have the power to not report that you have nuclear weapons, when you have the power to do all these different fucking things, all through foreign affairs and through our lobby, American lobbying. She said, Mahadia said, have you watched the new Katrina documentary? No, I've seen people talking about this thing. I've seen young Gen Z, or I've seen young people on Facebook and stuff like. I'll have to watch the documentary, especially if you recommend it. But I know I've seen a lot of people talking about it and being shocked about. A lot of people being shocked about the levee situation and the concentrated targeted attack on Black American people in the down South. With the Hurricane Katrina situation. I thought we already kind of went over this, but I don't want to be pompous. I do understand that everybody, gets it at their own pace and stuff like that. But I thought a lot of the conversation around Hurricane Katrina was not really about the storm, but about kind of the lack thereof of support from our government. And obviously the levee situation and that whole thing and the George Bush administration. But to see people in real time kind of take on this Katrina thing with a new light, we're really, it's just sign of the times, really. It's just sign of the times in that it's like, Cat Williams said the truth must be revealed. He said that at the top of 2024, and I think we've just been on a never-ending yarn ball of just truth being revealed and thrown at us, right? It's like truth can't hide anywhere. Like lies are being exposed left and right. So I guess I can put that on my list, the Katrina documentary. If people want to kind of talk about that, I would love to talk about that. Also with the Katrina documentary, you gotta, there's news about, the wildfires that happened in LA and kind of the situation going on there with Gavin Newsom, and the lack thereof of the signages of like people being able to reconstruct their houses and stuff like that, which is what was feared for a long time, and the land grabs that's going on over there in California, and the new smart city that's going on in Karen Bass, all that stuff. Also, you got the situation that happened in North Carolina. The Carolinas last year with the hurricane too. So these kind of things have happened for a long time. Also, BlackRock's interest in all these different territories that seem to have disasters, and we talked about on here HARP and cloud seedings and different stuff like. I got a theory here. Springfield ain't never had this many tornadoes, bro. We've been known. Clark County has been known for forever to be in a valley and not have a lot of tornadoes touch down because of our nature of being in this valley, right? Being in this cavity. We've been having tornado touchdowns a lot recently. We've been having very irregular weather patterns in Clark County lately. Now, I'm just saying, Trump did have a bone to pick with the Haitians, okay? And the Haitians so happen to reside in vast majority in Springfield, okay? It is this particular city, Springfield, Ohio. Shout out to the field, who made national news during the election cycle this past year, because of they're eating their cats, they're eating the dog situations, right? Obviously, we know that contributed to. Now, Donald Trump was elected, but that could have tore him up. That could have fucked up his campaign. And I'm just saying, I think Trump has a bone to pick with these Haitians, right? We're talking about ICE. We're talking about deportations. We're talking about inhumanitarian deportations. And I'm just saying, man, whoever's controlling the weather seems to be sending some storms over this way a lot. That's just me. That's my theory. They do that a lot, believe it or not. A lot of these wars, a lot of these disasters and stuff like that is reconstruction and land grabs. Trump and Ukraine, the mineral deal that was supposed to be had, now it's turning into a concession for Russian territory. It looks like, Trump is willing to negotiate a ceasefire and an end to the Ukraine and Russian war if Ukraine agrees to cede some of the territory that Russia has already marched in on. That's what we got news out of Russia and Ukraine. Now, that meeting is supposed to be had this week. We'll see. Trump claims that within 2 minutes, he's going to be able to know if a deal is able to be struck or not. But besides the point, the real point to me is BlackRock's investment on Ukraine and that territory. You guys need to look that up. You guys definitely need to look that up. So, no, I have not seen the Hurricane Katrina documentary. I will check that out if people would like. We can discuss that. But it did just take me down a rabbit hole of some of the other hurricanes and disasters that we had. And also the fact that disaster relief was being refused from countries that did not want to side with Israel. And, hey, France, you want to recognize a Palestinian state? Hey, Italy, y'all want to recognize a Palestinian state? Good luck, Dylan. Good luck getting any Red Cross, you little bastards. That's what Trump's saying. Now he's also mobilizing and militarizing Washington, D.C. He's also stating that that's coming to a city near you. He's doing all these reckless fucking things. They're talking about a fucking spaceship the size of New York fucking state, New Jersey state, the Empire State Building and shit, hurling towards, Earth in a few months. All this shit instead of just giving us the list. All of this shit instead of just telling Bibi Netanyahu to fuck off. And that he's not ushering in the Messiah and that they're not knocking down Al-Aqsa. Okay, let's talk about what's really going on. They want that territory. They want to annex the Gazans. They want to slaughter the Palestinians. The remaining bit of them, they can go anywhere. Y'all can go to Egypt, who's sold out. Y'all can go to Abu Dhabi, who's sold out. All these rich Arab nations who have sold the fuck out. They're talking about being involved in this ceasefire. Well, Israel don't give a damn. They want the Gazans and Palestinians out of the way. And then they're going to march on that territory. They are going to knock down that fucking Al-Aqsa. They're going to try to rebuild the third temple, and they're trying to usher in the Messiah. That's the bottom fucking line. Everybody cut the other shit. This greater Israel expansion conspiracy is true. It's right before our eyes, and I'm sick of everybody sitting around acting like they don't see it clear as day. You evangelical Christians have supported that. Zach said Trump is a master at distraction. He is. He's like, the stove is on fire, and he don't want you to know that he's a bad fucking cook and that he's burning the fucking meatloaf. So he's like, oh, have you seen my wall? It got, brown fucking chocolate milk stains on it. And then he's like scrubbing the wall. Like that's what he's essentially trying to do with all these different fucking gimmicks and different fucking failed attempts at distracting the media news cycle away from what we really want. Everybody in the country is saying, give us the list. You got the fuck, y'all try to lie to the American people and say, y'all don't want to implicate the victims. The victims are getting ready to testify in September stating that they want the release of the fucking list. The victims. Y'all are liars. He said, I don't mind what he's doing with DC because that's the seat of power and it needs to get rid of crime that is taking over the city. Zach, that may be true. But I'm saying we can get to that, Mr. Donald. We can get to the homelessness. We would love to tackle that. We would love to tackle the homelessness situation. We would love to tackle crime. We would love to tackle stand your ground states. We would love to tackle police states. We would love to tackle education. We would love to tackle inner city crime and the poverty rate. We would love to tackle all those things, right? But no, not right now. Not right now. Not right now. Y'all aren't going to supersede what's going on, which is a global sex trafficking ring involving missing fucking children. No. Solve that crime. You, Pam Bondi, Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pete Heskett, all these different people. No, y'all solve that crime. Law and Order. Dr. Detective Stabler. Solve that crime first. We'll get to all this other shit. I'm not going to allow y'all to continue to do different weird shit and have UFOs and all this shit when it's all convenient. The UFO shit came out last year when Israel started their war crimes and shit like that. UFO lore, and we had hearings and all this shit, all these people, and where'd that go? We were supposed to get declassified information. And then if y'all remember last month with the Epstein situation and all that shit spilling out, they tried to fucking unclassify Martin Luther King shit. You know what trade we'll take? I'll tell you what. There is a trade we'll take. If y'all want to distract us, I won't shut my mouth on this platform until y'all release the Malcolm X files. Release the Malcolm X files. Unclassify those. That's what y'all need to do. We don't want the Martin files. We know Martin was cheating on his bitch, on his wife. We already know. Y'all ain't going to sit up here and say he had gay lovers and all this other shit. That was J. Edgar Hoover, who liked to cross-dress. That was him. Don't be putting that on our leaders. But if y'all want to really distract us, if y'all want to throw meat to the crowd, go ahead. Give us the Malcolm X files. That's what y'all can do. But like Zach, all this other shit, the DC thing, Russia and Ukraine, that does play a part. I don't want to say that that's a big distraction. But all these other things that's going on. Bill Gates is playing Dexter fucking Laboratory. He thinks he needs to get contraceptives and different shit. Bill Gates is on my fucking nerves. Y'all want to talk about Bill Gates? Zach said, and we still have not heard anything about the MLK and JFK stuff beyond the fact that they released them. Yeah, well, good. Because, again, we'll get to that. They need to focus on what the American people are talking about and what they're begging them for. And they're running out of all excuses. So I don't want to hear it. You got Bill Gates opening Hell's Gate, no pun intended. He got this mosquito antidote and vaccine that he created that he wants the whole world to try. And he's doing test runs. He's releasing shit. China's reporting they got this different strand of fucking mosquito, all types of shit. You got this brain-eating virus and all types of shit. While you got Bill Gates running around playing Bill Nye the Science Guy, it's ridiculous. All this just Bibi Netanyahu can bomb Palestinians into oblivion. That's my main point. That's why that's the tension at the bottom of the screen. Because all this, that can wait another day. What we should not allow to wait another day is a global sex trafficking ring involving children, missing children. That can't wait another fucking day. No, it can't. The bombshell from Maxwell is that Bill Gates brought girls to Epstein Island not for sex trafficking, but for human cloning. I did read that, Zach. Who knows if it's true or not? I did read that. I did. That's what I'm saying. Bill Gates is trying to play, because Bill Gates done graduated from Mr. Microsoft himself, right? Bill Gates is on some weird ass powerful. Y'all remember the dad from Powerpuff Girls that mix spice and mix everything twice, and that's how he got the Powerpuff Girls. That's what Bill Gates been doing. We done let Bill Gates slip through the cracks. He was the person. Working hand in hand with Mr. Anthony Fauci to, co-sign the COVID-19 vaccine and all these different things. I'm talking about before we even had the COVID situation. Yeah, Bill Gates is evil as hell. He's been evil as hell. He's lucky I forgot that I made him my thumbnail. And I really wanted to get to him. He's been meddling in African domestic affairs for forever. Okay, he thinks that he's over there helping them, these hard belly malaria situations and stuff like that. He is over there testing his death jabs on poor African nations and people and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you think about how these vaccines and stuff is patented and their test runs and their test trials, yeah, they report that they put them in mice and they put them in rats and shit like that, but they don't talk about subject dummies and the African patients and all these different poor nations and stuff like that they test these fucking death jabs on. You know what I'm saying? And Mr. Bill Gates he's at the center of all that. He been done with Microsoft and AI, and he'll leave that to Elon Musk and Sam Altman. Y'all fight over that. He's going to cognitive separating consciousness and consciousness and all of those different things through the use of vaccines and medicine and these weird ass cloning things. That's what Bill Gates is all into. These guys are weird, man. They're evil. They're evil. They're evil beyond belief, and they all do it in the name of bettering humanity. They asked Bill Gates is also a believer into the need of killing 4 or 5 billion people. That the world can't sustain itself. The resources don't match the output of people on the earth. He's all into that type of shit. So that same God that believes that 4 or 5 billion people need to disappear off the planet Earth is also somebody that we're allowing test run and subjugate different vaccines and medicines and stuff like that. Would y'all take a jab from that man that believes 5 billion people need to be eradicated? Yeah, depopulation, like Mahadia said. I wouldn't take a jab from that person. You know what I'm saying? Not me. I think I got some notifications. Okay. But yeah, we'll really have to talk about Mr. Bill Gates and that contraceptive that he has over there that's preventing reproduction. And it's funny, we could talk about why he's doing it in Africa. And, because on one end, you got him preventing birth rates and stuff, or controlling birth rates in Africa. And then the other end, you got, in Asian countries and different things like that, they're offering stipends and offering benefits and different things like that for people to come over and populate the place because the birth rates are so low in certain areas. So it's just really evil. That type of power, that type of thinking, really evil. And that's why it's really important to watch the birth of artificial intelligence, because one of the things that Vice President J.D. Vance said in his meeting, his sit down with Maria, was that nothing indicates he didn't see, although he understands he said he does have his own fear about artificial intelligence, and he could see certain things about artificial intelligence and the dangers of artificial intelligence. He talked about the correlation between artificial intelligence and deindustrialization, and the potential of artificial intelligence taking over jobs and these things. He said nothing he's seen indicates that might be the case. But my rebuttal to that kind of thinking is that with artificial intelligence, before there's a trace of that, if you see a trace of that, it's already too late with artificial intelligence. If he was able to see a trace of artificial intelligence coming to take over jobs and replace people and transhumanism and this whole ideology, if you were to see a trace of that, guess what? It's already too late. It's artificial intelligence. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to see a trace of it. And if you've seen a trace of it, it's already too late. You're already God. That's the danger of artificial intelligence, is that it is the next evolution of human ability, of human psychology, of human, it's transhumanism, right? It's that, what I said, separating the consciousness from, the human body. It's that whole idea of playing God. And if there's some sort of trace of it, it's already going to be too late. There's nothing you could do to stop it. You know what I'm saying? What are we going to do when we're dealing with Grok version 10? We already see what Grok version 4 and 5 is doing. What happens when Grok goes rogue, but we're on version 10 of itself? What happens when artificial intelligence gains sentience in these different things? I can't stress it enough. We've already seen the fucking movies. They always put the shit in the movies. We already see the shit in the movies, right? There's nothing that J.D. Vance and American politicians are going to be able to do if they sense the trace that artificial intelligence has gone rogue, or it has a bad effect on the American industrial complex and the workforce and all that stuff. If y'all seen a trace of it and stuff like that, well, guess what? We've already been got then by artificial intelligence. There's nothing y'all are going to be able to do to reverse it. Y'all don't even understand it. Y'all don't even understand LLM and these long language. We're putting our hands in the faith of like Elon Musk and a Sam Altman and a Peter Thiel and all these different people and stuff like that, people who create these programs and things, but they don't share it with you and I. They don't declassify it with you and I, and the general public don't understand it for fuck. It's kind of like, we know that the iPhone, shout out to Steve Jobs, recipes, but dog, these things, it's kind of like 2K, right? 2K, for years, we've been begging 2K for these different upgrades. You know what 2K does? Because it's smart business, They give us that little by little. Could they upgrade everything and fix every bug and fix everything and make it exactly how we want? Of course they can. But why would they? Same thing with the iPhone. Year in and year out, they tweak little minor things and then they charge you another $1,000. $1,500 here, $1,500 there. Of course, iPhone has its finished product written out. They already know what the finished product of an iPhone looks like. They know but it's not in their best interest to do that. Why would they go from the iPhone 15 or 16 model to the perfect iPhone the very next year? I mean, the inversion. Why? When you can slowly milk the American people, you can slowly milk the people for it. So that's what you have with artificial intelligence, right? But the scary thing with artificial intelligence is it's going to get so good that it becomes too late for us to be able to do anything about it. This is the one instance where we know artificial intelligence, the next step from artificial intelligence is it gaining sentience. It being able to self-improve itself and it be able to do all these things that make it an intelligent life form. We're looking in the sky, looking for aliens, looking for UFOs and stuff like that while we're on the ground creating alien life as we speak. That's what's going on. We're creating our own demise as we speak. So we got people like Bill Gates toying with that. And you got people like Peter Thiel toying with Palantir. And really, that's another thing that you got going on in the government that's really at the crux of a lot of this. He said, that's what you be doing to us, just slow dripping us the truth. Oh, no. The thing is, the information has always been out there. It just takes the perfect. God is such a beautiful, 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 beautiful artist and architect. He just makes it clear as day for a baby to understand at the perfect timing. Eventually, we'll become Planet of the Apes type society without the ape rulers. Yeah. I mean, we're a few years out of a police state, man. You already see this lining up to where it's possible, to where if Mr. Donald Trump, he's already mobilizing the National Guard and the Army and stuff like that against the citizens. He's already having tyrant type speech, Now I know it was rumored out there before his nomination and inauguration that, I think it was in Project 2025 that everybody issued out, or Project 24. I think it was Project 25. That Trump was trying to turn this into a fascist state and have some sort of rulership. And we know he's kind of toyed with the idea of running running again, right? And I'm not here to get into that today because I'm short on time when it comes to that. I am willing to say, though, we are seeing the footprints and we are seeing the foundation being laid for that to be possible. We're either going to run into a scenario, guys, where we have a president toy with that idea and flirt with that idea of fuck the Constitution, I'm not getting out of office, or we're going to run into a situation where artificial intelligence, Grok, we begin to look to them as the surveillance state, as the government, right? And in a scenario we talked about on here, in a scenario, let's say worst case scenario, the Epstein list does come out. So the hackers, please do your job. Please do your job, man. What happened to the hackers? What happened to the hackers of the Matrix? Let's say this whole shit gets hacked, right? Julian Assange style, right? And the Epstein list comes out and it implicates most of our government and the government falls. We're in position right now to be either taken over by a technocrat, i.e. Elon Musk, Stargate, NVIDIA, something like that. We're either in position for that to happen or for us to say, you know what? The next form of governmental evolution is, artificial intelligence, and us having an artificially intelligent president, king or queen. And then in that case, then we're under the control of artificial intelligence, right? Because it gains sentience, it gains power, it gains control over the people, it gains domestic affairs, it gains all of that territory, it gains that. And then who's to say when the term is up in 4 years that it wants to be removed, or it removes itself, or it slowly concedes another election back to a human? This is the typical movie. This is the Manchurian Candidate. This is They Live. This is how those movies happen, right? But the point is that we're in position. The groundwork has been laid for that to be a reality today. If Trump goes down, if Trump is to get assassinated, if our government falls due to Epstein list or anything like that, it's one or two things happen. A technocrat completely takes control and seizes control of our government in the White House. And I mean an actual technocrat, somebody that is controlling all the tech field and the artificial intelligence, and they know all the information about it, i.e. Elon Musk. Or we just say as a country, you know what? Perfect timing. We're done with government. They're doing global sex trafficking rings. They're implicated with Israel. They're doing all these different things, right? And if that happens, I can see the American people agreeing to hiring Grok. We got Grok. Grok is the new president. Grok is president 49. That's the new president. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday. All right. And we know, just in reading history and stuff like that most nations last about 250 years. And I can see her fall. I can see us selling out to artificial intelligence. Not only can I see it, I know it's coming. I know it's coming down the pipeline. And that's what's so scary. That's what's so fucked up. But, I do think that before that happens, the people that are in control, the kings and queens, the ruling elite, the royal families, they will go down kicking and screaming, and they're somehow trying to position themselves to be in charge of the artificial intelligence takeover. So you got Israel teaming up with a surveillance state. You got those things. You got these technocrats coming in during the election cycle and trying to get in with Trump. We talked about Mark Zuckerberg and how he was trying to get in line with Trump. We talked about Elon Musk and the Trump situation, then their fallout. Now they're back in good graces. We talked about Sam Altman and his press run. We talked about Palantir and how Palantir and Google is teaming up and all these different things, and artificial intelligence on YouTube and face recognition. We talked about all these things, right? And these rulers are now faced with a decision on how they have to evolve, or they will be the first ones to go with artificial intelligence. Okay. These governmental bodies and ruling class people and stuff like that, they are going to have to figure out how to gain control of artificial intelligence and how to team up with these fucking Bill Gates type minded people, to where they have this idea of depopulation and transhumanism and stuff like that. But then they also have the codes to the key of life. You know what I'm saying? That they're the ones that are creating programs and stuff like that nobody in the government. You think fucking Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders and what's the McConnell from Indiana that be having the seizures and shit like that? You think these old ass these old ass politicians and stuff know what the fuck's actually going on when it comes to technology, and they're getting all this updated every day in, day and out? They don't know. They don't have a fucking clue. These are your Congress members. These are your House representatives, people that actually do legislative things for the governmental body, that don't have a clue of what the fuck's going on. Because if I don't know what the fuck's going on when it comes to all this, and I don't, they definitely don't know what the fuck's going on. You ever talk to your parents about technology? They don't know what an HDMI cord is. they get frustrated. My parents call me when the HDMI cord is not plugged in all the way to the TV. They think the damn grid went down. You know what I'm saying? So you got these type of people that are serving in Congress, serving in the House of Representatives, serving in the DOJ, serving in the Supreme Court, all these old ass people that is at the precipice of artificial intelligence, like where it's marrying right now, at the same time. They don't know what the fuck's going on. So they're really at the bequest. They're really at the mercy of these technocrats, because we've agreed to allow the technocrats, because of this space race, or this artificial intelligence race, I should say. They are trying to, there is another space race, by the way, but I don't want to talk about that right now. But due to this whole idea that, we must get our artificial intelligence first before somebody else gets it, before China embroils on it and stuff like that, is going to lead to a tyrannical takeover, a straight tyrannical takeover from actual human beings in the White House to artificial intelligence. And some say that lizards run our government too. David Icke and some people like to say lizards run our government. So I guess it will go from lizard people to artificial intelligence. That's what's coming down the pipeline. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about. It's 9:30. I think I'm pretty done. Do you guys have anything y'all want to talk about before I get off here? I did really want to talk about the JID thing. I'll be real brief on the JID thing. I did listen to the JID album. Well, first off, I went and seen. I did go and see Weapons. I went and seen Weapons this past weekend. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! If you have not seen Weapons, mute me. I have mixed feelings about Weapons. Now, it is a good horror film. I do recommend everybody to see, especially if you are a horror lover in that genre, or if you have kids, or you're into like mystery and psychological thrillers, anything like that. I definitely recommend seeing Weapons. I do personally have issues with some of the narrative base of the storyline. I see too many holes in it. I need some more answers. And I do understand there's films out there that leave you with more questions than answers. I understand that type of film, but I don't feel like this was that type of film. I feel like they thought they tied all the loose ends in, and I just don't like the loose ends. I don't like the knots that they tied at all. And then I also have an issue with, well, I don't have an issue with, I need more education on this correlation between the ideas of it being called Weapons and the story that we were given. Or I also seen a theory out there about like school shootings and shit like that. So I do have some concerns about this Weapons movie. And plus, I also have a concern about, it's one of those movies where like the big reveals at the end and shit like that. So when that happens, I also have some resolve usually about the replayability of movies like that, right? Because I feel like once you watch that movie first, it's hard. Not Sinners, and not Weapons particularly, because the acting is good. There's some performance. There is some reason to rewatch that movie. The cinematography is great. I thought the score could have been better. That was me personally. I thought the score could have been better. Zach said talks are underway for a Weapons prequel centering on the character Aunt Gladys. Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. I think that Weapons needs a sequel or a prequel. It needs either one. It can't be a one-off, unfortunately. This movie has some explaining to do. It definitely does. But yeah, I definitely recommend everybody go seeing it. I also recommend after you see it, the homie review on his TikTok page did put out his review on Weapons, so I definitely recommend you watching that, tuning into that. But I also wanted to talk quickly about the JID album. I kind of feel the same way about the JID album as I do about Weapons, where it's got high praise and stuff like that. And while I do understand, I do have some critiques about it, and I know I shouldn't lead with critiques. So let me really start with some of the positives. Some of the positives is that JID can rap his ass off. JID can rap his ass off, but we already knew that. and Jid is also a very versatile MC. He's also very likable. I've seen him on his press run. I've seen him do the Joe Budden podcast. He's somebody that's real well spoken. He's up to date on what's going on, because a lot of you fucking rap dummies out there don't even know what's going on. You know, I miss the days where there used to be a marriage between hip hop and politics and different stuff like that. But you know, you ask like a rapper today, man, they don't have a clue what's going on. You know what I'm saying? In local politics and in city council, they don't know anything going on, right? And I just miss the days where we had rappers that, you know, used to throw you little nuggets in rap songs and have a little quick euphemism on certain things. They would just say certain cool shit about the president, or they would just, that was hip hop, right? It was like the graffiti of the music world. It was like, you know, it was just cool. It was just cool. It was just like the rebellious, cool nature of it, but it came with like some sort of like, forbidden knowledge being revealed to people. Like that's what hip hop was founded on. Like that's the idea of hip hop, and that's not the case no more. So I will give. I do want to say Jid is from that ilk of MCs, and when you hear him, you do hear classic MC shit. You hear tremendous superstardom. But a lot of my beef just stems with the fact that he has to go for himself. That's the thing. Jid has to get off of Dreamville, bro. I hate to be mean to Dreamville. I hate to continue to beat them up. I did not agree with how they handled the Drake and Kendrick situation at all. By no means. I still don't agree to it. I will never agree to it. I don't like how J. Cole has handled himself. I don't like the silence by J. Cole. I don't like the silence by J. Cole through the Jid rollout. I feel like Jid deserved more of a rollout. I know Ebe has tweeted his album, and they've done Dollar in the Dream shit. We talked about this last episode. So I know that there was a little bit of rollout, but they're not handling the artist real well. I talked about Ari Lennox. She's lost her fucking rabbit ass mind. She's barking up the wrong tree, worried about Martin and Pam and all this shit. I don't like how they handled Earth Gang. And I really don't like how they're handling Jid, man. Jid, there's no reason Jid shouldn't be big as Doechii or bigger than Doechii. There's no reason, man. There's no reason. He has all the talent in his pen. Yeah, see, Lane said Dreamville didn't push Jid well enough either. That's where my beef is. My beef isn't even about the content on that. Well, I have a gripe about the content I'll get into, but my beef isn't about the talent on the album. He showcased his talent, but to me, this project feels like another Jid project. It feels like the last one. It feels like the one before. It feels like when I first met him in 2016. It didn't feel grand. It didn't feel like, oh, this is my breakout project or this is the one. It doesn't feel like that. Now, some people say it is that. Some people are claiming this album of the year, rap album of the year, this Eclipse or Alfredo 2 and all those things. The thing I will say with that kind of thing is the quality of rapping there? Yes. But people don't understand that there's so much more to an album than just, there's all these different fractions of an album. It's like a governmental body. There's all these different legislative, there's all these different things. Okay, how's your album roll out? What's the impact on your album? Now, are we talking about sales and stuff like that? No, I don't really care about the sales, but impact matters. And sales sometimes indicate impact. So, he said, absolutely not album of the year. I agree. I don't even think it's close to the Eclipse. And the thing that I tried to tell Jid fans and Dreamville fans and all these, fans is that, when you run into an album that checks all these boxes, and you can taste the difference, you can hear the difference, you can feel the difference. You know what I'm saying? Yes, is Jid rapping on the same pace as them? Jid had 3 or 4 verses on that album, maybe even more, where I'm like, man, like, he's out of here. This dude is out of here. His mind is out of here. But it doesn't have the song structure. That's the thing. Jid is still in this rookie state to where he's still doing some of his own skits and he's doing some of his own bridges and different things. There's no, he had Sierra on the track. He had Earth Gang on the track. He had a couple of people on different features and stuff like that. But the song structure, it doesn't feel like actual songs, right? When you hear GNX, you hear songs. When you hear Drake's projects, you're going to hear songs. J. Cole's going to give you a few songs, like a full song structure, verse, hook, bridge, verse, hook, bridge. Jids don't be like that. It'd be like long verse, a little skit, or him just having some weird inflections, then long verse again. Verses be fire, but that's the difference between a Jid album in 2025 and a Clips album. Clips gave us all of it. Great verses. I mean, otherworldly hooks. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're having to reclassify and rethink about where Pusha T might rank in his hook game. You know what I'm saying? Due to this album. They gave us, Birds Don't Sing. They gave us Pharrell production. So it checks all these different boxes. Production, impact, music video, all these different things that make an album. He said, I don't like your take on the Gibbs album, though. That shit went crazy. The Gibbs album is the same as the Jid album to me. It falls under, it checks 2 boxes for me. Maybe a little bit more, but like 2 major boxes. Great production, great rapping. It doesn't have great hooks. It doesn't have like a singer. It doesn't have great song structure. They're not songs. There's no songs on it. And by no, I mean like there's maybe 1 or 2 songs. And even them songs ain't real grandiose songs. They're not full-blown songs. It's just Gibbs raps good and he's under great production. And that's hip-hop too. I don't get that construed. That's hip-hop. Beats and rhymes, right? Beats and rhymes. Fire beats, fire rhymes. That's hip-hop. But when you're talking about album of the year, when you're talking about rap album of the year and shit like that, it has to have some crossover ability. It has to have some song structures. It has to be checking these different boxes. And then you got to get into your marketing. I'm sorry, that's a part of it. Your rollout is a part of it, man, because that rollout creates your impact. And impact is a big measure that I'm going to account for when I'm talking about an album. He said, but are they good as Taylor Swift? Of course. See people like Taylor Swift, they have the marketing, but they don't check any of the other boxes. I think the songs are pedestrian, the music videos, everything else is pedestrian, but they have the best marketing in the world. So when you're talking about an album, to me, it has to be a marriage of all of those things. It cannot just be a little bit of these things. It has to be a marriage of all of these things. You better have some fire music videos. You better have and it don't got to be all of these things. It could be a combination of these things, 4 or 5 of these things. But good concepts, good writing, all of these different things is what makes up a good album, including its impact, which then constitutes a good rollout, good marketing. All of those things matter. And I just feel like Jid continues to get the short end of the stick through Dreamville. And to me, this isn't a Dreamville versus a Jid thing. I personally think this was one of my critiques about J. Cole. I thought J. Cole was making Kendrick light albums. I think Kendrick would make a grandiose album. He would have the marketing. He would have all that. The concept would be everything would be crazy. Everything would be nice across the board. And then J. Cole would come out with a lazier concept, lazier marketing, lazier writing, just a little bit a notch down from what Kendrick did. Right. So this was always my critique with J. Cole about his own project. So I already knew that when he had Dreamville, he had artists under him and stuff like that. I'm like, I just don't think J. Cole needs somebody to help run the marketing and all that stuff. Man, when you think about Kendrick and stuff like that, TDE is a powerhouse in this industry. You got Punch, you got Top Dog and stuff like that. They've been on they understand marketing. They understand the industry. They understand that. And then my other critique is that that it seems like Dreamville holds Jid back because Jid is a samurai. He's a swordsman. He wants to get out there and spar. But I just feel like that label has moved in such a certain way, and they moved in the light of the Kendrick and Drake thing. They moved a certain way, so it positioned them. Jid came out and he was ready to go to war. Jid was, let's just be real, Jid was ready to go to war, but they weren't ready to go to war. Dreamville was not ready in all uniform, ready to go to war. That's the difference between these labels. TDE, they stood 10 toes behind Kendrick. Absol, J-Rock, everybody stood 10 toes behind PG Lane. Nobody out of line. The whole West stood 10 toes behind Kendrick. We're going forward with this. Whether right, wrong, evil, looked at bad, whatever, win, lose, or draw, we're going forward. Dreamville, it's a whole bunch of, I don't know, or this and that, and oh my God, and Jid wants to diss, and Jid feels like J. Cole, Earth Gang felt like J. Cole, man, and then they coming out saying, we appreciate the apology, and we understood he had to do all that type of shit. You know what I'm saying? There's this, dissent between the label. It's not, you can't tell the direction of the label. So my main critiques about this JID album is that it's a Dreamville project. It's a Dreamville project. That, yeah, besides the game blew it. The game blew it. Boy, did he blow it. He blew it big time. Big time. But yeah, my biggest critique is that it's a Dreamville project, and that I think JID does need to learn to be a better songmaker. He needs to, to this day, I don't think JID is as good, and I can see the comparisons between him and Kendrick a lot. And I've always classified JID as a Kendrick kid, a Kendrick baby. People try to say Kendrick don't got influence, but I see a whole bunch of babies out there. I'm talking West Side Boogie, I'm talking JID, I'm talking Anderson .Paak, I'm talking D Smoke, I'm talking, there's a multitude of art, Baby King. I'm talking a multitude of artists out there, Akeem Ali, that have been heavily influenced by Kendrick Lamar, and you can trace it and see it. But I feel like JID today in 2025, even the album before this, I don't feel like those songs are better than songs on Section 80 in Kendrick's rookie offering. I don't feel like as songs he has presented me a high power. I don't think as songs he's ever presented me an ADHD. I don't feel like as a song he has ever presented me a West Side Right on Time or a Ronald Reagan era. Like, because JID sometimes suffers from diarrhea of the mouth to me, where he's so fucking good, he's so talented, he can rhyme words better than almost any person on this planet, but he's not able to really get a full idea across, right? He's not able to make me feel a whole idea, right? Let me see. In Kendrick in Section 80, right? Let me see. Hold Up, Fuck Your Ethnicity, ADHD, Ronald Reagan Era, Poor Man's Dreams, Keisha Song, Rigor Mortis, Cushion Corinthians, High Power. Like, these songs are flushed out ideas, full flushed out ideas. JID would just be kind of all over the place with a sword, samurai, rhyming really, really well and stuff like that. But at the end of it, I'm not clear on the idea. If it was an idea, I heard him have a few bars about an idea in a song, but he never really flushed the whole full idea out. I didn't feel the idea. He doesn't invoke feeling really well to me. He just raps really well. He raps really well, and he's a really versatile MC. He can sing. He can rap about a whole bunch of different things. He can rhyme words really good. He's never had a shortage of words. I've never seen JID in the booth struggling for words, like boxing the dictionary. I've never seen that. Some MCs, I can hear them struggling for rhymes, internal rhymes and external rhymes, and to bridge over to another bar or anything like that. I've heard even Kendrick struggle sometimes. I've heard it. JID, it doesn't seem like there's ever a shortage of words. However, I feel like sometimes to a fault, he leans on his ability to rhyme words more so than to commit in the song structure. So that's my other critique, is that he has to learn to commit to more song structure. And if he can do that while maintaining good MC, because like an artist like Nas, an artist like Jay, or an artist like Biggie is the perfect example of this. An artist like Kendrick, another good example of this. They couldn't really fucking rap their ass off, right? This is the difference between like the whole conversation between a Jay-Z and a Black Thought that's going on right now. will.i.am coming out saying that Black Thought is a trillion times better than Jay-Z. Well, that's poppycock, because the best writers, the best rappers that I've ever heard are people that are able to commit to an idea and flush that out through lyricism. It's not these people that can do jumping through all the hula hoops and rapping about a million different things and doing all these. Yes, you're a great MC in your own right, and that does have its own place. And it does showcase a lot of your skills, like Lupe Fiasco. Lupe is a great example of this too. Lupe is able to be a wordsmith and a samurai with the words as a sword, but he's also able, I've heard Lupe commit to ideas and flush them out fully. Okay, that showcases another side of storytelling, lyrical ability, that you're able to commit to one idea, one concept, and write about it a million different ways versus just writing a million different ways about anything. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference between your Black Thought and your Jay-Z. That's the difference between right now, to me, a Jid and a Kendrick Lamar, is that Jid has not showcased to me an ability to be able to commit to an idea and commit and get his point across over a full body of work or even a song on an idea. He got songs on his album called like VCRs and stuff like that. But like, I really don't understand. I'm not picking up the concept. Let God Sort Them Out. They committed to all these different ideas. Chains on Whips, you understood. POV, you understood. He said, I feel like Black Thought delivers ideas very well. No, you just saying that. No, you don't. Stop it. Black Thought just be rapping, bro. That Black Thought just be fucking rapping. But yeah, I mean, the critiques are small. They sound, I explained them real long and in detail, but they're really small. They're not small in the grand scheme of things. Those things that I listed make that album like a 7.5, 8 out of 10 for me, to be quite frank, right? I think the ability is there for him to have a magnum opus. I think there's an ability for him to really have a legit mainstream classic album. I just think he's being held back by his label. He's not being given, he doesn't have good direction. And I think through not having good direction, no one's having the ability to teach him to commit to an idea. He said, how many Black Thought albums have you listened to? I've listened to Black Thought enough. I've heard him on The Roots, and I've listened to his solo songs and mad Black Thought shit. The question is, how many have you listened to, and what ideas, what concepts to the culture has Black Thought bring? Has he gave us a Meet the Parents? Has he gave us a Rewind by Nas? Has he gave us The World Is Yours? Like, Black Thought he has a few of those type of songs, but not to that level to where he has a full concept or a full idea, and the world kind of took his idea and ran with it. That's not Black Thought skill. That's not what he's known for. So again, I think that is a weakness of his. He's able to rhyme a million words, but he's not able to rhyme about an idea a million different ways. So same with Jid. Again, marketing, direction, and committing to an idea and song structure, to me, is where Jid needs to work on for him to really take that next step. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. I think that really concludes of everything that I wanted to get off my chest today. Again, I do want to highlight again to my breath that Bibi Netanyahu seems to have our politicians at gunpoint. I think the gun that he is using is the Epstein list. I don't think that the report out of the Israeli Times of Israel, I don't think that that's a false report. I don't think Ari Ben Menashe saying the same thing about Epstein being a Mossad agent. I don't think that these are far-fetched QAnon conspiracy theorists. I think that these are actual factual information, and we see that being done. We see the correlation between the timeline between the 12-day war, the ceasefire, Bibi Netanyahu coming to the United States to sit down with President Trump, then go on a press run with the Nelk boys and clean up some of his image, to the Epstein list hitting the streets like crack in the 80s, to then all the politicians bending at the knee and suddenly in full-fledged support of the genocide clearly going on in Gaza, right? So that's what's going on. Also, technocrats are back in an attack and doing what they do. So we need to keep our eye on Bill Gates in his Dexter laboratory. He said, stream of thought is literally a series. That don't, like, you just be saying dumb shit, bro. Now that's what I'm saying. You just like, you're too expansive. You just like too much shit, bro. Like, you're not understanding what I'm saying. Stream of thoughts, like, okay, give me the song on stream of fucking thoughts that the whole world has taken as an idea, or a song on there that we really look at as a song. There's none. Like, stop it. Either you're not understanding what I'm saying, or sometimes you're too accepting of every fucking thing. Okay, Black Thought does not commit to concepts and ideas. He don't have a Reasonable Doubt out there. He don't have an Illmatic out there. He don't have a To Pimp a Butterfly out there. He don't have these bodies of work that we constitute as a whole idea or a mantra or a zeitgeist. Black Thought doesn't have that. Okay, he's a monster MC. He's known as one of the greatest MCs on this planet Earth. He can rhyme words crazy, but these full-fledged out ideas that I'm talking about, Black Thought does not have. That's all I have to say on that. But yeah, just keep an eye on Bill Gates. I'll have to talk about him on my next stream and some of that shit he's doing over there. But let's just keep an eye on this timeline, this Epstein thing. I just want to say that the Epstein thing, the Israel-Hamas situation, the Gaza humanitarian crisis, the NATO isolation of U.S. and Israel, genocide, all of this stuff is all a part of the same vein in the same leg. Okay, it's all working together as a function. So let's just keep an eye on Maxwell and her releasal. Let's keep an eye on some Israeli operations. Let's keep an eye on how the international courts perceive this, the genocide, and then let's not get distracted and start pointing fingers at each other. Like I said at the top earlier in the show about left and Democrats and all these. Let's not lose the plot on what's going on. Okay, again, a foreign government has our American politicians at gunpoint over an Epstein list that implicates American politicians and other world leaders, a part of a global sex trafficking ring involving missing children. That is the main fucking point, okay? And if that is being talked about, which it is, if that is acknowledged, which it is, that is not a conspiracy. That is what is acknowledged as what is going on. Maybe not the Israel tie to it, but the fact that there was a global sex trafficking ring, if we can all agree that that is what happened, then we need to all divert our attention and focus on the releasal of that. We need that to unlock anything else that needs to be solved. Crime number one, issue number one was y'all fucking kids, okay? Who was fucking the kids? Who was fucking the missing kids or the cloned Bill Gates kids? Who was fucking them? Okay. Any politicians fucking them, they need to be dealt with. Okay. So